Posttrauma is a game that I look forward to ever since it got announced at the Game Awards back in 2022. I started gaming on my PS1 at the golden age of survival horror, and I've been chasing the same unsettling magic of the genre ever since. I'm also a trophy hunter, which means I tend to go for the platinum trophy for every game that I play. And survival horror tends to be the playground for speedrunners, which is why almost all the games we all know and love have at least one speedrun trophy. Resident Evil's trophy list also makes things a little bit spicier by adding in a pistol only run to a no healing run, just to name a few. Other RE-inspired games also tend to follow the same list, like Daymare for example. These trophies separate the willing and the ones that just prefer their plats handed to them as easy as possible, which is not a bad thing for people who just collect easy platinums and be on their way. I mean, I do it for certain games that I don't feel like sinking more hours in than I have to, like there's totally nothing wrong with that, which is why trophies are meant to be a hobby in the first place and nothing more. However, for people who want to feel proud about their platinums, unfortunately won't find it in this game. Posttrauma only has 16 total trophies, including the plat, and most of the trophies are all story related, with a small exception of getting 2 different endings, not even a difficulty specific trophy to be found. And the other 2 trophies are collectibles, with Defender only being missable if you purposely give up on the puzzles to acquire this trophy, which leaves finding all the tapes in the game being the only trophy that's truly missable, and even then you only have to collect 4 tapes in total. With that said, everything past this part will contain spoilers, so just keep that in mind if you think this game is for you. Alright, let's begin. The moment I watched my first cutscene, the game instantly locked me in with a trophy right off the bat after shooting a helpless man point blank range with little to no explanation as to why. We like those insta-lock trophies, for now we're locked in. The next scene shows our main protagonist, Roman, waking up inside a train all confused, which is always a classic way to start a survival horror game. This is my first introduction to solving a puzzle in order to unlock a door. As the very first puzzle tends to be, it wasn't supposed to be that difficult to solve, but here I am roaming back and forth around the train trying to find clues. Before I attempted on cracking the code, I first had to look for a missing part for the lock, which was placed on one of the creepiest mannequins to ever exist, and would probably give the Silent Hill 2 mannequins a run for their money. The first obvious clue is right next to the locked door, which shows a symbol of a triangle, which equals to 1. Along the train are symbols in a certain order, so automatically it already tells me that I should find what numbers the other symbols hold, and that would be my answer. Another gimme is a map where the game is already painfully showing me the answer, as it shows the next symbol of a square being a 7. And if we look at the map closely, the square is also found in the intersecting line of red and green, which you would think that it would already click in my head that I just needed to add the numbers of those lines, since 4 plus 3 is in fact a 7. But alas, I am as slow as they get as I continue to roam the train for an extra 30 minutes looking at a bunch of completely unrelated posters, until I finally had my very own Jimmy Neutron brain blast. Oh, cause you add them together, it's 4 plus 3. Bro, I'm so stupid. Now it's time to finally progress to the first section of the game, and also popping a trophy for solving the train puzzle called Clever, which is the complete opposite of what I just displayed. After figuring out the complexity of the triangle goes to the square hole puzzle, Roman finally reaches the front of the train as he puts it in a complete stop and begins exploring the tunnels on foot. As I take in the eerie setting that this game has, I ended up spotting my first tape, conveniently placed on a bench. I then checked every nook and cranny to get the full immersion that the game has to offer, as a slight typo ruined the tempo a little bit as it caught me entirely off guard. Is time stating still here? What? All progress was then halted after running into a jammed gate that I needed to pry open. So I walked back to look for a tool of some kind when the game showed more of its psychological horror side as it proceeded to play tricks on my mental health. I gotta look for some... What the fuck? Hello? After going back down, a door suddenly emerges from out of nowhere, and inside is where I would find my first weapon, and also the item I needed to pry open the gate with. Behind the gate, however, is my first enemy of the game. Like everything the game had to offer so far, it strongly shows the inspiration behind Silent Hill. From the eerie music to the scratched up screen, fear was introduced for a very short amount of time, as I absolutely went to town and made this monster regret being part of the game. If there was one thing that this game got right, however, it's the eerie vibe that it radiates all throughout the chapters. It kept me on edge, constantly expecting one of the mannequins to finally move. In this area, I have to find all 3 fuses scattered about, from easily obtaining one on a vending machine, finding one inside an ice block and putting it inside a microwave, to carefully fishing for one using a wire. I now had to solve the generator puzzle, which didn't take me quite as long as the one in the train, but still took me a hot minute to figure out. Around the tunnel were painted numbers and letters, which I now had to flip the switches depending on the number next to each letter. That powered the generator, causing an ID card to fall to the ground. And I don't exactly understand why I needed to turn on the generator if the whole place had power anyway. ID now in possession, so now I can proceed to enter the locked door, where I would get into a conversation with a random woman named Jill through the radio. She then gives me a 5-digit code to a 4-digit door, which automatically gives me a bunch of red flags. I proceeded down the tracks once more to reach said door until I see a mannequin that is now in spitting distance from where it was last at. And the game fixes this loophole by simply running me over with a train, finishing Act 1. Shortly after that, I woke up not as Roman anymore, but as Carlos. And even worse, I am now in first-person view. At this point in the game, my heart rate was gaining more beats per minute than Chris Brown and Rihanna. Well, it ended up like one of those memes where this level did definitely get me in the first half, because the only threat I managed to run into was a fish. And after this fish managed to catch me, it ended up grabbing me with its human hands, as they kinda just slapped me on the chest and pretty much peaced out after that. So the scare factor at this point was, as we can all agree on, non-existent. The puzzle in this section was fairly easy as well, as the hint towards the code was shown with a couple darts sticking right next to it, meaning I had to go look for a dartboard. I was a little disappointed that they didn't implement any of the other parts of the dartboard, like the bullseye or the triple or double spots, to give this puzzle some sort of math with it, but I guess not everyone plays darts and you'd want a puzzle to be solvable by everyone. After opening the door, I managed to get the chief's key to his office, where I would then grab his ID to open the vault, where a valve can be found and used on the door that I needed to open to escape. And this would conclude the segment as Carlos runs towards the exit, only for him to enter the interrogation room all over again. No! 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 Then cuts back to Roman waking up in a hospital now, where I have to do a string of puzzles to make acid so I can pass through a door that is blocked by a bunch of fleshy things. But to make the acid, I first needed to grab all the necessary ingredients. To get those ingredients, I had to solve a computer password, which was conveniently written down on a sticky note in front of me. Reading the message on that computer, I've learned that there was a sleepwalking woman who wandered into the women's restroom. Inside the restroom, there's a random hand reaching out trying to grab something, and another monster holding the key I needed to access the next puzzle room. I thought solving the clock puzzle would be pretty simple since it looked like I just had to read the hour hand. But when that didn't work, I ended up just jumbling the numbers around until it eventually unlocked. After grabbing the sledgehammer, a locked door would open up, introducing a new enemy, where I would find myself beating this thing to a pulp. Good thing we're already in the hospital anyway. In one of the rooms, I found my second collectible, leaving me with just 2 more to go. Also in this room is a blood bag labeled AB+, which serves as the first ingredient I need to make the acid. Inside another room, I found a roll of toilet paper, and I immediately knew where it needed to go.
Wait, is that what the hand was looking for?
Sure enough, that random hand in the women's restroom was the right place to use it, and in return, the hand gave me a silver coin. Entering every room in this hospital, I also found a gun, where instinctively I tried to aim, but weirdly enough, this game doesn't have that feature, as pressing the trigger automatically fires the weapon, instantly wasting my ammo.
Oh my, I don't even aim this thing.
Going inside more rooms, I find another blood bag with label O+. And the room right next to it is a flower pot that contains another coin that I would need for another puzzle later on. Using that O+ blood, I gave it to the mannequin, which in turn gave me another coin. Inside the safe room is a card that I could then use on a vending machine that drops the last coin I needed to open the box. After placing all the coins in the right place, the box opens and I get some pliers, which I would then use to grab the scalpel that this creepy ass mannequin was tightly gripping down. With the scalpel in hand, I now found myself inside an operating room where I would then cut out the flesh of this thing. Mixing both the blood and the skin got me the acid I needed to open a door finally. Inside this room is when I finally come face to face with that lady on the radio, Jill, which turns out that she was actually a giant spider. As I watch in awe of our protagonist that puts as much effort into his acting skills as a soggy quarter pounder at your local McDonald's.
I don't know what. What do you mean? Oh no. No.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Oh brother.
The story went from me being excited to get some answers to what's going on to just downright getting even more confused as more questions started piling up. Wait, so Roman killed this person? Like when? How? Where was the cutscene or inner dialogue or gory flashback of this happening? Instead, we get his reaction of remembering that he did in fact killed someone? Well, before more dialogue was said, maybe explaining anything a bit more, Roman was then smacked outside the room. Wait, I thought this was supposed to be a boss fight. Roman then spots Carlos being a stalker as he gives chase, finding out that Carlos uses these portal things to traverse the realms of whatever the hell this place is. Again, no explanation so far, so I'm still eager to find out more about the story, which gets me another trophy for finishing Act 2. In this new area, the first thing I saw was a memorial of a girl that clearly passed away. Not 10 seconds after seeing that, the exact same girl shows up talking to me Stephen Hawking style, as she very awkwardly gets snatched away by a monster, and Roman with yet another award-winning performance.
You don't belong here. Why are you here?
Oh no, oh no, shit, I didn't mean.
Starting Act 3 with a banger already. Going inside the school, I was immediately met up with multiple corridors, so I just chose a random direction and stuck with it. Along the way is the usual eerie atmosphere, though this section in particular feels like a nod to, or is at least inspired by, Silent Hill 4. And some colorful clocks that are just frozen in place, which something tells me that I'll need to memorize this for later on. Now for the school section, I needed to access the church, starting with the first puzzle I came across, and this is to unlock this breaker box. I needed the code, and luckily the one I needed was sitting right next to it, but I need to rearrange it first to make it into a proper sequence, by connecting the lines until it looked like an actual drawing of some lines. But as the door opened up, I was presented with some flashing lights, not by that of Kanye's, but with different flashing colors, which I will need to solve the loop room. Not sure what this room is called, but this is just what I ended up calling it, where I needed to enter the colored rooms in sequence with the flashing lights. Inside one of the rooms is where I would find another puzzle, but this time for a shotgun. To solve the puzzle, I needed to know what the times were for both red and blue clocks. And good thing I memorized all of them because I definitely called it, and also ended up solving this on my first try in the process. In the same room, there was also a set of keys, which eventually led me to a bunch of miniature planet figures that I needed to get the church key. But this wouldn't fully open the door yet, because before that, I needed to pretty much draw the symbol shown on the lock. There were a bunch of drawings that can be found in different classrooms, and I would need a combination of 4 to fully draw the logo. In the church, I finally find a girl that got snatched earlier, and as Roman painfully tried to convince her to work together, the next boss was directly behind Roman as this thing tossed him to the side like one of Andy's forgotten toys. As cool and intimidating this giant boss seemed to be, it was unfortunately no match for the power of the shotgun in close range. Even after the fight, Roman still managed to get ragdolled into unconsciousness, with heaven being the next place Roman wakes up to. With no explanation whatsoever, a giant hand randomly snatches the creature in the nick of time, and now I have to play as Freya. With a not so pleasant memories of the OG Resident Evil 4 where I had to play as Ashley, I already knew that this was going to be a nightmare. But after having to experience some Oscar-worthy stuff with the cutscenes, Gaming Jesus did cut me some slack this time. As it turns out, there were 0 enemies while playing as Freya. She doesn't even have any combat mechanics like dodging or attacking. She can't hide either, which is totally fine because I can't say that I'm a fan of that concept in video games, if I'm being honest. So playing as Freya, I needed to grab some spelling salts from the nurse's office so I could wake Roman back up. To get to said office, I first needed to get the key. While roaming around once again, I managed to fit into one of the cracks that Roman couldn't get into earlier. Behind one of the cracks was a part of a metronome. The other crack led me to the gym, where after solving the puzzle on the basketball court, another piece of the metronome fell, so now I had 2. Well, for some reason, I didn't really know where to put these, as I got lost again, but this time so much longer than the train section. I tend to be a little stubborn, so I refused to look at a guide. As precious hours had passed, I miraculously found where I needed to put the pieces, as I did a final sweep at the music room, just before giving in to the power of Google. After fixing the metronome, as you might have already guessed, yes, I in fact have to solve another puzzle to get the key. There are 3 locations where the answers lie for this particular puzzle, and unlike the other ones, for this I had to rely on my tempo. While the 2 other puzzles were easy to follow since there were clocks, the other is the buzzer that made me think for a hot minute. But after solving that, I finally got the key that I needed, as well as the smelling salts. With Roman finally awake and finally answering some of my burning questions, it is possible that all the locations were previous locations of his memories, and that the girl in the memorial from earlier was in fact not Freya. Based on my deduction, I believe that this is fact, because 1, the girl in the picture, her name was Helen, and 2, Freya said so. The plot goes in deeper as Freya mentioned that she was the one who killed Helen, and just like that, I am back at square one. What the fuck is going on? I also popped 2 trophies. One was for collecting all the weapons in the game after picking up the boss's large sword, and going through the portal, I got another one for finishing Act 3. Now at the maze, a revelation was made, because this is where I found another tape, so technically I would need 1 more to pop the trophy, except for the fact that the tape I had gotten was in fact tape D. And if my math and alphabet knowledge are right, D would be the 4th tape, unless the game had tape D come before C. In that case, I had messed up badly. But at the time I thought it was just that, not even paying attention to it whatsoever. After finding 2 key pieces to open the door opened back, mainly at my skull. And now I'm back to my favorite segment of the game, the first person mode. As I was already dreading what kind of monstrosity awaits me this time, it turned out that there were literally no enemies in this level as well. It's kind of like the game's budget was so low that they failed to hire more monsters to fight. I guess I could just focus on solving the puzzle for this area too. In the area filled with computers were also random symbols displayed on all of them, and all those symbols represent a number found on this sheet of paper conveniently placed for me to find. This would unlock the safe, and inside is a medal. I also would find a locker key where I would then find a pistol after using the key to open said locker. In my head I thought that enemies were definitely going to show up now because I have a gun, but the gun ended up in the key items section of my inventory instead of the inventory where I store weapons and healing items. I guess I'm really not going to be finding anything in this game from now on. After finding all the medals, it was now time to put them all in the correct order. This puzzle confused the hell out of me because there were no hints to be found anywhere in the building, until a light bulb cartoonishly lit up and I figured out that the words on the medals literally meant nothing, and that all I had to do was to arrange the medals according to the number of sides each medal has. After opening the secret room with ammo, it was now time to go into that room just to find that guy that we shot at the beginning of the game. I could feel that I'm close to beating the game, and yet I still have no idea why he's doing this, or who he even is as a matter of fact. Waking up as Roman, he finds himself at the same subway once again, and at this point I didn't think that enemies would spawn anymore, which was a mistake as one actually got me good.
There should be a safe spot in here, yeah. Holy shit.
Then I encountered Jill once again, but this time she finally gave me one clear meaning about my confusion towards this whole game.
You still look whole, but I smell the rot. I know your flesh itches.
Which makes sense that Roman keeps waking up every time he dies. It actually makes a little bit more sense now that this whole thing might just be Roman's little slice of hell because of what he's done while he was alive. For this part I needed to get the train working, and one of the pieces was behind a new monster, and also my very first death in the game.
Did I die? Oh my god, I actually died.
After beating said monster, I went ahead and grabbed the key card, the same one that I had earlier, and also Roman commented that a body looked just like him. At this point my early theory was just becoming clearer by the second, since I did get run over by a train in the earlier act. After solving this computer puzzle to give power to the train, Roman was now off to the races. Ended up at the hospital place again where I had to solve another computer puzzle, this one being far easier than the others where I just had to check the walls outside to figure out the answer. This would then open up the locked door, and behind it is Jill. And this would finally be the boss fight that the game had been heating up this whole time. Well, this boss was easy and my confidence was through the roof with this pistol until I ran out of ammo.
Please stop. Stop.
What do you mean, please stop, bro? Like, you're the one who initiated it. What are you talking about? No, you're getting clapped. I gave you the option. Now you're dead. I got ammos for days. Okay.
But even without a gun, I still managed to bring Jill down without a whole lot of struggle, which would pop me another trophy. Further in, I would also get to chat with Carlos, and the conversation was kind of a waste of time as he didn't really say anything useful. Just as the place behind the door is far worse than the place we were at now. Unless Diddy himself was behind that door, there was nothing stopping me from going through it. He also mentioned the king of the place, which I guess the plot is now to find said king to get some answers. Back in the train out to find the king, I end up on an island where I would then be reunited with Freya, instructing each other that they would meet halfway. While solving yet the same puzzle I had solved earlier, I started to get worried that the game had run out of puzzles to give, and it would just be the same type of puzzles from here on out, until I have encountered the final puzzle the game has. A sort of battleship styled puzzle where the battle I had to win was my patience and mental health. I was so confused because the only thing I had to go on was a bunch of numbers and directions. After failing to find any other type of clue, for the first time in my run, I finally caved and googled for hints. Thankfully, a forum post explained how to solve the puzzle, which I never would have guessed that this is how you solve this. So deep inside, I was still relieved that it wasn't just a piss easy solution and I just overlooked it as usual. After solving that puzzle, I finally got a key to get out of this area and popping another trophy for completing Act 4. Behind this door, I was finally reunited with Freya as we went to meet the king to get some answers. He introduced himself as being in this place for 10,000 years, and a bunch of words that neither me or Roman understood. As his clothes vibrated faster the more he babbled on, he mentioned that for Roman to leave, he needs to be with somebody, and for him to be forgiven by someone else's eyes. Which makes sense, except it doesn't. So earlier my theory is that this place is either a purgatory or hell itself for Roman. Jill hinted that Roman is actually dead. Roman died twice now and he keeps coming back. So this final exit, is it actually escaping the horrors, or is it just the entrance to heaven? I guess there's only one way to find out, as Roman and Freya go back to the train, with the final stop being the final exit. On their way there, Jill shows up as she starts busting through the train, while I just held the accelerator up until I crashed through the door itself. With Jill gone from the crash, we were met with Carlos as he watches while the final boss emerges from the depths. While a cool concept for a boss fight, in retrospect, it was just a glorified puzzle, where I would need to step on the pressure plate to summon an enemy, killing said enemy on the second plate for Roman and Freya to spin one part of the spinning puzzle. The other part is having the monster free up the one debris that was holding the other piece back. And after solving that, I have finished the game. Okay. The final boss was kind of a letdown, but that gave me 3 trophies. One for beating Act 5, while the other one was beating the game. As Roman and Freya reached the end, as they were about to go through, the screen cut out with a voice of an unknown woman calling Roman. I mean, in this case, I already knew that it was Jill once again. Looking back at what the King of Vibration was telling us earlier, someone else has to forgive Roman before he can leave, and that someone was Jill. But that gave me the ending A trophy as well. A couple things that I want to mention: Carlos literally had no contribution to the story whatsoever. Unless this Henry person is in fact Roman, then I can see Carlos as the tormentor. There was really no explanation as to who Henry is or how he's connected to the game. Carlos mentions that he's a monster, and maybe every time he shoots him, he would wake up as Roman? Another thing is Roman's past, as this game only hints that Roman did in fact kill an innocent person, primarily someone who was close to Jill. But without any flashbacks or any clear explanation that Roman did in fact do those things, the only thing I had to go off of was Roman's realization that he was indeed a monster, even though he said that he never meant to kill anyone. The other thing as well is that after some light Google searching about the game, it turns out that Roman is a train conductor. I'm sorry, where was this mentioned? So maybe he ran someone over with a train, but then it wouldn't be his fault because it's not like trains can brake fast enough to stop. And Freya says she killed someone as well, so who's forgiving her? And why is this only targeted towards Roman? But more importantly, and this is by far the worst one, as the credits rolled, I realized that I did in fact miss tape C somewhere in the game, which means I have to start a new game and thoroughly searching this time. Wanting a blind playthrough while not wanting multiple playthroughs is indeed the duality of a trophy hunter. But before starting a new game, I ended up loading my most recent save so I can redo the final fight again, but this time slowing the train down and not turning Jill into a sandwich. After slowing the train, Jill sees Freya run right next to Roman as she starts yelling Juliet, which she either lost her daughter or her sister, and Freya reminded her of Juliet. I don't know, man, my head hurts. But after redoing the puzzles, a new scene happens as Jill kills the monster and helps Roman and Freya escape. And at this point, you can see that Jill might have finally forgiven Roman. And at the end scene, Roman finally explains what happened, which answers the majority of my questions.
There we go. Tail end. Should be another ending.
It wasn't just an accident. Before all this, I never wanted anyone to get hurt. I didn't even want to die, but I didn't want to wait any longer. I was so tired of waiting. I wanted to reach an ending. I wasn't thinking. It was a moment of darkness. And a lot of people died. I can never be sorry enough. But I am sorry.
I don't understand, but I believe you. I didn't kill my friend. But I didn't stop someone from hurting her. I did not speak. I wasn't brave enough to speak at the time. Can't make it right. She's gone now. I'm sorry.
I believe you too.
Hold hands? Jump?
Whatever happens, thank you.
And you know what? I think I'm content with that story. I mean, I don't know what Carlos's deal was, nor do I know who Henry is and why he keeps getting shot. And since they're all technically dead, this was purgatory and the exit is pretty much heaven. With that said, I now had one trophy left, which means it's time to gather all the tapes all over again.
See, this is the tape I missed. I was kind of hoping it just pops it for me, but I need to get the last tape. Where's it? Just in time.
Let's go. So that was Posttrauma's very weak platinum, and a very weak grinding if I'm being honest, but I still had a blast playing it, and the game nailing down the Silent Hill vibes that I wanted all along. But if you guys have any recommendations for any horror games with a platinum trophy that isn't Outlast 2 or Alien Isolation, leave a comment below and I swear this time that I'm doing it. For real this time. And be sure to keep it real while you're at it, but not too real, because that's just boring. And I hope everyone has a phenomenal day.